It's a good day for it, yeah? Um, Otherwise, well, I should say the way that we're going to be talking about sleep is really the fundamental that we keep coming back to on this path of awakening, that in order to wake up, you have to first realize you're asleep. And it's something that we've talked about quite a bit, but it's an inexhaustible topic until you wake up, because the way that sleep is described in these sacred teachings is it's our life as we know it. So we're going to be exploring this idea of being asleep in many different ways. We'll look at the Course, Gurdjieff, and one of my favorite authors, Peter Kingsley. I don't know if you're familiar with Peter Kingsley, but he's written a number of books. We're going to be looking at his book, A Book of Life, this morning, and I think you'll enjoy his style and his thoughts. Before we get into anything, I'd like to just open the space by quieting the mind, bringing to mind the reason why you're here, which is to wake up from this sleep and recognize that you are pure, loving, unshakable, divine awareness. And taking your first conscious breath, and relaxing. Let the soothing sound of the rain wash in and through you. Allow the sound of the rain to carry away all disturbing emotions and limiting beliefs. Just feel that power coming down from above, symbolized by the rain. And bringing you into a perfect state of peace and stillness and receptivity. And as we set our collective intention together this morning, we are here to remember. We are here to wake up from the dream of limitation and lack and suffering, and to know ourselves as children of God, free from all suffering, free in the abundant life of the Spirit. And we came to know this and then forgot, and now we'll learn again what we once knew. So this is a remembering, this is a returning, this is a knowing again or a recognition of what was lost, but now is found again. was dead, but now is alive again. And so goes the ancient myth, and so goes our modern life. And so we open our hearts and our minds to be guided this morning and to do some deep soul searching, deep introspection in this practice of self-remembering. And so it is. So in preparing for the talk this morning, I was just reminded of a verse from the Psalms. And King David was said to have said, "As for me, I will seek your face in righteousness, and I will awake with the likeness of your presence." And so this seeking of the face of righteousness is one of the elements to the awakening process. In the Hebrew, righteousness actually is a relational term. It's a way that we relate to one another and thereby relate to God. Right? So if you've seen the Son, you've seen the Father. And how can you say you love the Father if you despise the Son? And the way that this is set up within the ancient teachings of the Bible is the Son is the manifestation of individual consciousness. We are asleep to the fact that we are the Son, the S-O-N, the Son of God. But nevertheless, we carry the status of being a son of God. We are image bearers, right? And as King David says, when we awaken, we will have the image and likeness of the divine. There will be no two-ness in that awakened state. I and the Father are one. Right? That is the nature of reality. The Son is the Father, and the Father is the Son, and yet they still are distinct. How beautiful. The Father is greater than I, but everything that the Father has is mine. So it's a beautiful relationship. And we have this with us. We are bearing it every moment, but we are asleep to it. And one of the reasons why we are asleep to it, says the Bible, is because we are unrighteous. We are unrighteous. In other words, we don't know how to be in relationship. Remember, righteousness is a relational term. Unrighteousness is not knowing how to be in relationship to the sons of God. We misuse our relationships. In fact, instead of being the Son of God, which is our essence, we are the personality, which is our mask. And we've invested all of our time, all of our dedication and devotion, as we've talked about recently last week, into the personality. The personality is the idol that is sitting on the altar of our heart. We serve not the Son or the Father. We serve our personality, our idol. And so we are idol worshipers in that regard. And we are unrighteous. And we're going to all burn in hell, I tell you. It's a unity message. So what to do? If we are in a state of righteousness, we have the same likeness and image of God. We recognize the Father through the Son. And so we want to come to this place today. And as Plato had said, it's a long and arduous journey. But one of the things that we can take heart in is knowing that we don't walk alone, and that this practice of self-remembering and wanting to see, wanting to wake up, is really our part in the equation. You know, Jesus says in A Course in Miracles, you'll be amazed at how little is asked of you and how much will be given. And so there's a part we must play. We must want to wake up. We must want to remember. And so that means we must be willing to look at the ways that we are asleep and seek to change those, right? To come out of unrighteousness and enter into righteousness, to stop misusing the relationships in our life and start using them as ways of expressing love, kindness, blessing, and to establish relationships built on the foundation of wanting to wake up, wanting to know who we truly are, right? Instead of using each other for idol worship, we can get into fellowship of knowing one another as divine beings and treat them as such. How beautiful, right? How necessary. Because otherwise, we are in a state of not only unrighteousness, but in a state of hell, right? As Jean-Paul Sartre said, hell is other people. And I don't think he meant it this way, but we're going to use his words as a great point of departure here, because hell is other people. When we wake up to our fate, to our natural state in righteousness, we will realize that our neighbor is ourself. Our brother is ourself. So yes, hell is other people, but you can only see other people if you're an idol worshiper. Right? So this is the idea, cultivating a sense of unity consciousness, and that would then translate as right use of relationships. Right? If we are in our own idol, we are misusing our relationships. And unfortunately, we've been doing it for a long time, and so habits have become very solidified and strong in us. And so one of the things that we have to contend with, as we also mentioned last week, are all of these unconscious defense systems that we have built into our way of operating, so that the triggering of a teaching that has us look at ourselves when we have invested in being the idol, well, we now know how to keep that teaching far enough away so we don't look at ourselves. Right? This is one of the ways that we will recognize, as shocking as it is, how we, in many ways, are defending the idol and choosing to stay asleep. Okay? So we're gonna unpack this. We're also going to, hopefully at the end of our talk this morning, get into a forgiveness exercise, because releasing our grievances is a necessary step in getting out of suffering, right? Holding grievances, feeling bad, and having these toxic dynamics in relationships will never allow us to get out of the trap, will never allow us to get out of the sleep. In fact, we will reinforce our enslavement through the misuse of our relationships. So grievances are chains in disguise. And so when we release our grievances, we're also taking the chains off of our mind, right? So that'll be the end of our talk today. But first, I want to just bring into your listening pleasure Peter Kingsley. And this is a wonderful book, A Book of Life. Now, Kingsley, I think he was educated in Cambridge, but instead of taking the academic path, he was a pot washer and a waiter, and like really actually wanted to embody wisdom. He didn't go the white collar or the ivory tower route. He actually went into the depth. And he's one of these people that has reawakened the true aim of Western civilization. He goes all the way back to Parmenides and Empedocles, these pre-Socratic philosophers before Plato and Socrates, and shows how these ancient traditions are really the keepers of the wisdom for the West. And there's much that Kingsley will bring out about Sufism and Taoism, Jung's psychology. All of this is wrapped up in his understanding that so to say that we are divine beings having an identity crisis, and in the Western psyche, this identity crisis is severe. Because as you'll see, we have forgotten that we've forgotten, which puts us in double jeopardy. Okay? And as Gurdjieff will point out, we've forgotten that we've forgotten, and yet we think we're awake. Right? That's very dangerous, right? We're all sitting here going, I'm awake. Right? I'm here. I know who I am. And what these teachings are saying is bullshit. You're not awake. And you don't know who you are. So stop pretending. And once you can get over the shock and the horror that you're asleep and everyone else is asleep, then you can do something about yourself. But as long as you're placating and numbing and sucking on your pacifier, you're not going to wake up to the fact that you are asleep, and it's very dangerous to be asleep, right? Sleepwalking through life. Not only is it, pitfalls are not seen, but you're stumbling into all of these things that cause increasing problems in your life. And then the solutions that come to you while you're sleeping just create more problems in your life. These dream remedies never fix anything. They actually make more suffering if you really look. So, Peter Kingsley, please be very careful of this book. Watch out. Don't trust it for a moment or take the slightest thing for granted. Take enough time to get to know it, and far better, give it all the time it needs so it can get to know you. Watch the things you say in its presence. Start treating it with respect so that it might even come to respect you. Learn that what you feel about it is of no significance compared to whatever it might feel about you, as it reads and notes your every thought, registering your hesitations. Let me explain. This book has a life and an intelligence of its own. Or to be a little more precise, each chapter is a conscious being. Their words are nothing but the crustings sometimes attached to a creature's back, not the whole story by any means. And honestly, to be quite truthful, this book has been written to be read, but not by you. To write it, I had to be taken to a place so terrifyingly deep, I no longer even existed as a human being. And to read it and understand it, the same would have to happen to you. By some strangely mysterious process, we've come to believe books are written by humans and for humans to read. That's not at all how it started out or the way these things were meant to be. But bit by bit, when everybody's back was turned, that's how it ended up. Every trace of consciousness was crushed by the endless weight of lifeless words, and the arteries of the world got so blocked up, no living being even knows how to breathe properly anymore. And this is all because we forgot. And we forgot that we'd forgotten. And then we forgot we'd forgotten that there was anything to forget. Totally lost was any memory of the timeless, headless beings who lined the beaches as our protectors. We no longer remembered the gods. But that's not to say I or this book am inviting you to remember. It's far too late for any of that. When we're masking our forgetfulness, that's when we're being asked to remember. When suddenly we long to wake up, that's because it's already too late. It's not at all what sometimes is said, that the clock's ticking close to midnight. To wake up means waking up to the fact that it already passed the point of midnight several days ago. And so these words are not for you now, because there's no now left to speak of. They're not meant for you more than life is, than the birds are singing just for you. They're not so much a book as an unbook that keeps intact by staying unread. This is a depository of seeds, saved for a dim and distant future, destined for those who don't yet exist or for those who exist no longer. And if you are stuck between the two, feel quite free to watch as a witness, to look like innocent passers-by. To be sure, without a single doubt, this book will take you back all the way to the source of life, if you allow it. All you have to do is let the words fall silent like the rain inside you. They'll take care of the rest, as this is the rarest of things, a book of life. Just indulge me a bit more here. Nothing comes anywhere close to the experience of becoming human. To discover we're not this two-legged body is unbelievably easy. It is the simplest thing one could do. Children can be taught it, ought to have been taught it in school. But the senseless spells recited for centuries by spiritual and scientific authorities have been more than enough to leave everyone dizzy, disoriented, lost. The consciousness behind our body is what's looking out through the eyes right now, listening moment to moment through the ears, and it never changes, is never born. It never dies. Death and birth and all the other fidgetings of change take place inside consciousness. The trouble is that unless you've learned how to ease yourself into the saddle of consciousness, life will throw you as soon as it can and knock you out. Anyone who identifies with the body while alive will identify with it when it dies. We'll come back to that for a moment. This word picture of easing and settling into the saddle of consciousness. Otherwise, life will throw you out, throw you and knock you out. It's what he's really getting at, I think, is that if you stay on the periphery of your life, it's like the spinning wheel. The only still place within the spinning wheel is the hub. So to settle into the saddle of consciousness is to remain within the center of yourself, where there is stillness and peace. It's just like a hurricane. If you're in the center of the hurricane, nothing's going on. It's quiet. You can have all of the chaos and destruction going on around you, but you can stay saddled within the center of your consciousness, the still place, under the shadow of the wings of the Almighty, right? Where nothing can come nigh your dwelling. This is the place of peace. And otherwise, if we lose the center, we get tossed about, we get beat up, we get knocked out. We go unconscious, right? Because we're not in the center of ourself. And then he says, anyone who identifies with the body while alive will identify with it when he dies. That's a very potent statement, right? If you are completely identified as your body, when you die, and the Tibetans have a lot to say about this in their book of the In-Between, or the Tibetan Book of the Dead. So you go to your funeral, and for many, it says in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, they're shocked. They can't believe they're dead. They're looking at their corpse. And it's because our state of mind hasn't changed. As long as we're identified as the body here, we will oftentimes transition as the body identity, and it will be a very hard acclimation to the post-mortem state because we're so fixated on being the body. He says, anyone who identifies with the body while alive will identify with it when it dies, and that's the end of their story. But whoever stays alive while the body dies instead of going unconscious realizes how much has been lost, knows at first hand what it means to be a human, and sees the purpose of the body and understands how necessary it is. A human life is so incredibly rare and precious that there are those who wait thousands of years just for the hope of a single chance. It's not the kind of thing to take lightly or throw away. As the old saying goes, a life in the hand is worth two in the bush. And it's so unimaginably fragile. Life as a human is this: to walk out into the open fields of existence with a sniper behind every bush. Snipers of sickness and forgetfulness and death. Some manage to take 30 steps, others 70, others 80. A few don't make it to 10 or 20. More to the point here. So he's talking about human beings as seeds. And he's saying, we grown women and men put on airs of being accomplished human beings, just like tiny seeds claiming to be a tree. Children are fresh seeds. Old people are shriveled seeds. Spiritual people, artistic people, very clever people, all lie somewhere in the spectrum between wrinkled and smooth. But this culture never even got as far as the sprouting. Right? So he's making a point about how our society is completely based on body identification and really staying in a perpetual adolescence of distractions, entertainments, sense indulgence, and work, primarily work. Go to work, right? And we are basically automatons. We are robots. We are in a society, a culture that has completely forgotten where true reality is. And so these seeds that we carry, the seeds of our potential, have not been fertilized. They haven't sprouted. And so we're walking around as seeds, and we think we're trees. We think we've sprouted. But we haven't had that experience that makes us truly human yet. This is what he's saying. And what we're really getting at in all of this is the fact that in order to really make a committed effort to want to wake up, you have to be shocked by your current situation. Like, until you realize the cost of staying asleep, you won't realize the benefit of waking up, all right? So what we want to kind of bring out is the fact that the waking up process is often, if not always, motivated by these painful, terrifying experiences of the shock, of recognizing we're not where we think we are yet, and there is work for us to do. All right? Actually, he tells this really great anecdote. I was going to leave it out, but I shouldn't. Of when he's a little boy and he's playing with his toy engine. And he's reflecting on when he was a young boy, and he was born very aware. Right? He had this awareness of this changeless consciousness from when he was a baby. And as he's playing with his toy engine outside, going up and down the yard, he hears this voice. And it's the voice that has stayed with him the whole time. He says, the voice tells him, "Now you're a little person with engine and string, but look at what's looking. Listen to what's listening. What's watching through your eyes and hearing the sounds around you and smelling air and sensing the breeze isn't little or big. It isn't young, it isn't old. It's what it always has been and always will be. Your body will grow bigger and taller until eventually it's as large as your parents or all those peculiar adults But this that you are, that's seeing and hearing and aware of everything moving and changing around you, it never grows. It never moves. It never has changed. It never can change. It never will. Right? So this is your essence. Right? This is the one who's listening right now. And when I say that we have work to do, is because in the very next instant we forget this. And we go into a dream state. Like for a moment, maybe when you heard those words, there was a bit of a jarring, a turning your attention around, looking at the one who's looking, aware of the one who's listening, aware of this changeless, deathless state that is the very bedrock of your being, the ground of who you always are when you were a little child and where you are right now. This is the one that has never changed, the one who's looking out through your eyes, the one who's listening. But the mind then immediately conjures within the imagination a completely different world that occludes and clouds and blocks that knowing. And so the work is a self-remembering. The work is a constant returning of the attention to what is real in you, your essence, not your personality, the surface mask, but your essence. This is what awakening means, right? Because when we talk about sleep, we talk about sleep in two states. Your sleep state, when your body goes to sleep, and your seeming waking state, which is here right now. Both in these teachings are considered sleep. And so the awakening isn't where you wake up, because the you think you are is just another form of sleep. It's waking up from you. And like we're going to get to, when you're in your seeming waking state as this you who is really still asleep, you can't be in relationship to anyone. Not in reality. Like we said, it's misusing relationships, and these relationships that we form are relationships to stay asleep. Okay? And one of the things that we have to watch in this self-observation practice, which is so crucial to waking up, is how we seek to avoid this, how we resist it, how it triggers and pisses us off to get these stirrings and these pointing out instructions that are telling us we're asleep. Most people don't want these teachings. Right? Make me feel good. Tell me about ancient aliens. Tell me about how the pyramids were built. Tell me about when Mars was civilized. Tell me about all of these wonderful ideas of the Mahatmas and the avatars, right? We can get caught in this web of fantasy and imagination and think spiritual and metaphysical thoughts, but all the while, we don't know who we are. We're asleep. We're the you that's dreaming and thinking spiritual things. And so that's why these teachings are so critical at this hour of need. We need to wake up. As Gurdjieff says, when you realize the horror of what it means when all of your leaders are asleep, like everyone who's pushing the buttons and the levers of society are totally in trance and asleep. Like you got to recognize, like, this is why the world looks the way it does. Everyone's asleep. And so these teachings are to rouse you, shock you, piss you off, trigger you, so that, God damn it, you can look. You can wake up. Right? This isn't to coddle. This isn't to make you feel good about your life the way it's being lived. It's to say, look at your life, as it says in the Course, and see what the devil has made. This is why you suffer, my friends. This is why we suffer. We're sleepwalking. And we think it's the way life is, and it's not. It's a living death. And these teachings are for those who know they're on death row. and want to escape. Otherwise, there's no point to any of this. I would just be up here saying blah, 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 blah. Ah, that feels nice. Okay, off to our day now. No, this is, I got you for a few, sacred moments. Like, this is to make a break with the monotony of your hypnotic spell that you call life. And it's because I love you. And because it's happening in my life that I get to share it with you. And the benefits of it, I can't even begin to put into words. It looks like things are not happening on the outside when the treasure is being revealed on the inside. But faith is required and a willingness to look. That's it. So little is asked and so much is given. So little Peter is being told by this inner voice, even when you've become a gigantic adult like the others, this that you are won't have altered at all. It will be just as fresh then as in this moment, exactly the same. And you'll remember it then just as you know it now. Because only when you know this, only when you are it, does everything make sense. Each time outside with myself was always the same time, every day. What was watching the clouds rush by, or suddenly felt the sun come out from behind them, was telling itself it would never change. And this conscious demonstration, this unending reminder of what I'd known since the beginning of time, reverberated so deeply and spread so far through my little body that it could no more be forgotten than I could forget myself. Anyone a little inexperienced in these things might very naturally say, how wonderful it must have been for a small child to enjoy such constant clarity, except that reality couldn't have been more different. It was hell. Slowly learning to talk was for me the opportunity to start sharing and speaking about this. The only trouble is that wasn't what people were looking to hear. Before I said anything, they'd be all smiles and childish noises. But the moment I began framing some words for them, their jaws would lock. Their eyeballs started twisting and turning in their sockets. And as I began to understand, it wasn't just that no one wanted to hear, it was that no one could afford to hear. Because the whole adult world is built on the denial, on the infantile defiance of this. Loneliness became as ever present as the awareness. Between the birthday parties and the special treats, life meant trying to find some trick to help get by with lunatics who have created a fantasy world for themselves. To be playing innocently with toys at the same time, observing that everyone is asleep, seeing the excruciating meaninglessness of their existence, can be too heavy a burden for any child to bear. After all, there's never a true encounter with the sacred that doesn't turn our whole world upside down, that doesn't shake away each little lump of earth under our feet. Right? So part of the self-observation and becoming present to what comes up when you're in the presence of this kind of teaching is to realize that it's going to cost you your world. As Jesus says in the gospel, it's going to cost you the life as you know it. But what we've already established here this morning is that ain't life. It's a living death. It's a sleep. It's a suffering. It's a not knowing what anything is for. So as Charlie's grandfather says to him in the Willy Wonka scene when they were going to sign their life away, Charlie says, "Grandpa, do you think we should do it?" And Grandpa looks at him and goes, "What do we got to lose?" And this is exactly what we're dealing with here. What do you got to lose? What do you have right now that's so worth all of your vigilant protection? That isn't going to die when you die or before you die. What is it that's so precious that you're unwilling to give up? Why hang on to something when you're being offered everything? And that's not hyperbole, my friends. It's everything you want. We have an infantile defiance to it. We have to look at that. It's shocking. And sometimes even a small child has to take responsibility for acting as the living intermediary between reality and that world of nightmares others live in, is asked to take pity on the poor people wandering so far from themselves, is shown that somebody must keep conscious so everyone else can stay unconscious, that someone needs to stay on watch while the others sleep and has to go on remembering while they are walking straight out over the cliffs of forgetfulness. But of course, I couldn't say that or show it. The birds knew. The wind knew. The rain knew. The cats knew. They knew that I knew. For a moment, another boy or girl might know before running off the nearest cliff. Right? So again, we touch the essence and then quickly go to sleep. And we had these experiences, touching the sacred, the spiritual, the deep, the divine, when we were young. And then we forgot. And we've been wanting to get back there ever since. So here he ends with this. And this was the secret of growing up in an empty world, with family, with guests, with friends. It was always the same. I would pose together with our cat beside the electric fireplace. And that's a word picture of life, right? Posing in an artificial reality. Such is the nature of the idol. So infantile defiance and an unwillingness to look at ourselves keeps us asleep and repeating these dysfunctional patterns that we are suffering from and really want to get rid of. Like, it's again, like we've said, it's what brings us here to teachings like this. We want to wake up, but we don't realize the enemy's in the house. Right? The enemy is our conditioned mind, the personality, and our imagination that we are this separate body identity. We want to wake up because there's a part of our mind that wants out of suffering so desperately. So desperately. And at the same time, we immediately after knowing that, go back to sleep as the personality and get hooked back into these dysfunctional habits and patterns. So we must be firm with ourselves. We must know that there is one direction out of the suffering, and that is to begin to watch and be aware of who we are and keep opening to the teaching so that we can be washed clean. So I want to bring out a couple of things here in A Course in Miracles because it's so vital to reinforce, because we've probably forgotten already, and if we were listening in the first place, to the fact that we are not only dreaming when our body is asleep, but we're dreaming right now, right? And Jesus says this, and this really gets right back to what Peter Kingsley was saying about this infantile defiance. He says, dreams show you that you have the power to make a world as you would have it. And that because you want it, you see it. And while you see it, you do not doubt that it is real. Yet here is a world clearly within your mind that seems to be outside. So he's first talking about when we go to sleep at night and we conjure the dream world. And it is all within our own mental content. This is our mind displayed. We form a dream body and we form a dream. Well, we could dream this very room and the people in it. And as we're dreaming, this is all within our own consciousness, conjured like magic. And so he's saying this is the power of the mind. And when you're asleep, you don't doubt your dream. And then when you wake, you don't doubt your dream. And it's both and. It's the power of your mind, conjuring. He says, you do not respond to your dream as though you made it, nor do you realize that the emotions which the dream produces must come from you. This is the key that changes the whole world of the dreamer. The people in our dream, we think, are causing us to feel a certain way. But what these teachings will show you, if you're ready to look, is that you're choosing your feelings. You're choosing your feelings. And then you use the people in your dream to make it look like they're causing you to feel these feelings. You've already decided within what to feel, and you're responsible for that choice. But it's so cleverly designed that it looks like it's the people out there that are doing this to you, and you are therefore, you have no other choice but to feel what you're feeling. These teachings will begin to show you your consciousness caused it. That person is an effect in your dream to confirm what you wanted to see, what you chose to believe. He says, it is the figures in the dream and what they do that seem to make the dream. You do not realize that you are making them act out for you. For if you did, the guilt would not be theirs, and the illusion of satisfaction would be gone. So the purpose of the dream is to, again, we don't want to look at ourselves. We don't want to look like we are the infantile, temper tantrum individual that hasn't grown up yet. So what do? We actually make the guilt go out there. And it's so believable when we're asleep in the dream that we're not doing this to ourselves. We are having it done to us. And therefore, they are guilty. And we have every right to hold a grievance. This is how sleep is ensured. Right? This is how sleep is ensured. It's kept safe. And again, if you don't want to wake up, this is the last thing you want to hear. If you don't want to wake up, this is poison to you. If you do want to wake up, it's medicine. In dreams, these features are not obscure. You seem to wake and the dream is gone. But what you fail to recognize is that what caused the dream has not gone with it. Your wish to make another world that is not real remains with you. And what you seem to wake to is but another form of this same world you see in dreams. All your time is spent in dreaming. Your sleeping and your waking dreams have different forms, and that is all. Their content is the same. They are your protest against reality. Right? It's a temper tantrum. And represent your fixed and insane wish to change reality into your fantasy. You're the idol. The idol is God. You're protesting that the idol is real and God is unreal. My idol is God. God isn't God. And now all of my relationships need to bow down to the idol. They need to do what the idol needs and wants. And when the idol doesn't get its way, the wrath of the idol, right? Or the bemoaning and the victim idol. Everything is based on this. It is a temper tantrum and a protest against reality. And so the idol needs to go in this self-looking. Because the one who's listening right now, the one who's seeing through your eyes, isn't the idol. It's the consciousness. It's never changed. It will never change. It's not born. It doesn't die. But we have forgotten who we are. And we've fallen asleep as this idol or image or personality. And now that we are here, thank God, right? There have been maybe enough shocks to bring you into this chair this morning. And if you're roused to take on this practice and to do the work required, the shocks will lessen. They will lessen. But if we are still kicking and screaming and having a temper tantrum and protesting and choosing to stay the personality and wanting a better sleep, the shocks will continue and they will worsen. Because what we're asking for is more suffering. So finally here, grievances. Grievances are the way that we stay asleep and misuse our relationships, right? Dreaming an unrighteous dream, right? As for me, I will seek your face in righteousness, and I will awaken as your likeness, right? This is the path of the one that wants out of sleep and dream, right? Wants to use his relationships to wake up, not to project the guilt and make somebody else the fall guy, but to actually heal, forgive, and release these dysfunctional dynamics so that our relationships, as it says in the Course, becomes the temple of the Holy Spirit. That's what the temple is. The temple is relationship. Otherwise, the relationships are the temples to the idols, and you will suffer. So he says here, perhaps you do not fully yet realize just what holding grievances does to your awareness. It seems to split you off from your source and make you unlike him. Then it makes you believe that he is like what you think you have become, for no one can conceive of his creator unlike himself. Shut off from your higher self, which remains aware of its likeness to its creator, yourself seems to sleep, while the part of your mind that weaves illusions in its sleep appears to be awake. Can all this arise from holding grievances? Oh, yes. For he who holds grievances denies he was created by love, and his creator has become fearful to him in his dreams of hate. Who can dream of hatred and not fear God? It is assured that those who hold grievances will redefine God in their own image, as it is certain that God created them like himself and defined them as part of his image. It is assured that those who hold grievances will suffer guilt, as it is certain that those who forgive will find peace. It is assured that those who hold grievances will forget who they are, as it is certain that those who forgive will remember. Would you not be willing to relinquish your grievances if you believed all this were so? Perhaps you do not believe that you can let all your grievances go. That, however, is simply a question of motivation. Today, we will try to find out how you would feel without them. If we succeed even ever so slightly, there will never be a problem in motivation again. And so he has us go through this exercise, which unfortunately we don't have much time to get through. But he wants us to think of those that we hold major grievances against. And then think of the seeming minor grievances of those that we even think we love. So we have our special hate relationships and we have our special love relationships. But even in our special love relationships, we have grievances. So he's saying none of your relationships are devoid of grievances. Look at that. Recognize it. And then he says, after you have thought about the importance of what you are trying to do for yourself and the world, try to settle down in perfect stillness. Go into that center place. Be quiet. Remembering only how much you want to reach the light in you. Determined to go past the clouds. He says, your little effort and small determination call on the power of the universe to help you, and God himself will raise you from darkness to light. And then finally today, let's close our eyes and say this with a desire to make it true. My grievances hide the light of the world in me. I cannot see what I have hidden. Yet I want to let it be revealed to me for my healing and the healing of the world. Well, my friends, the blue bag will go around. If you're joining on Facebook or YouTube, remember the link is there for you to click if you'd like to support the 8 a.m. service, and we thank you for that. Welcome back. We bless the offering. Thank you. And with this gratitude, we charge it with the purpose to bring remembrance to all that touch the energy that it changes into. And so it is. Amen. All right, my friends, let's heal and seal the deal. Coming into the center of the heart, into the peace of the present moment, where the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. Amen. Course in Miracles tomorrow night, 7:15. Yes. Enjoy your day. Stay dry.